Yeah, so I'm Danielle. I'm head of test at AQA. I'm just going to talk you through a couple of slides on the technology stack that we use. I'm not going to go into any detail and go through this in any detail, but I just wanted to show that we are predominantly a Microsoft-based technology, and we exploit that as best as we can. So we've got we use Azure technology, so we're in the cloud. We've recently done a big program where we've moved from on-prem to cloud-based technologies, which is really interesting, and we can exploit that further with future initiatives. All three of us, myself, Becky and Catherine, have worked in different ways on this program, so we've got different experiences that we'd like to share with you today. Do you want to go on to the next slide, Becky? This is just to highlight where we've come from to where we are now. So in the background, you've got the old system, which was Oracle on-prem databases and programmed in a language called COBOL, which even I'm too young to kind of remember. And we've moved now to this really fancy, clean, sleek system, which is on Azure, as I said, cloud technology with SQL databases and .NET framework using C#. So as you can see, it's a huge improvement, and we're seeing the benefits of those. So as I mentioned, the three of us have got really different experiences, and we'd like to kind of talk through those and how we found being women in tech, and hopefully it'll be useful for you.
I wonder, Catherine was having some Zoom issues earlier.
Right, well, I'll ask the question to you, Becky.
So I'm Becky, as I said in the intro. I'm a project manager, and so I work on lots of different projects, some of them tech and some of them not tech, which is great. So once you're a project manager, once you've learned the framework, you can flip between the tech projects and the non-tech project, which is really gives that variety, which makes it quite exciting. For me, I started off in tech as a user. So I was working with lots of different companies that were developing software and telling them what the users want out of the software. And I got more and more interested in the tech behind it. And also the area that I got most interested in was, how do we make sure it's all very well bringing in a new system, but how do we make sure the users actually know how to use the system, that they know it's coming, they know when it's coming and how their job's going to change? So I started moving away from the sort of technical project management and onto the people and change management side of it, but utilising that experience of understanding the technology behind it at the same time. So I've worked on a few different projects. So I've worked on eMarker, which is the software that once all your exam papers are scanned and sent off to the examiners, it's how the examiners mark them on screen and get the results out. I've worked on a CRM software, which is how we manage all the comms with the schools, with the teachers, and managing all the emails that go out to them as well. And most recently working on that project that Danielle showed, which was replacing all our core processing systems to Microsoft.NET technology, which took us about 5 years to do so, and we're still, still rolling it out as we speak. It looks like Catherine's able to join on the phone now.
Sorry, yeah, technical issues. So yeah, a bit of background on how I ended up working in tech. I've always had an interest in technology as a hobby, but my route into tech actually started as a desire to work in book publishing. And after I studied English at uni, I went on to work as an editorial assistant on Reader's Digest's first board game, on the strict understanding that I was going to learn the software really quickly. They'd been advertising for someone with years of experience, and I talked my way into it, basically. So this is a bit of a lesson in going beyond your comfort zone and trying things out and really throwing yourself into things. That was the first step of my career. I really loved learning. And then after a ton of job applications, it was a recession, I genuinely applied for about 60 jobs. I got a job as an editorial assistant, and again, a bit of luck. I'd applied for a maths and science job. In the interview, they offered me a humanities job. It was an organisation called Boardworks who created lessons for secondary schools. So that was interactive Flash activities. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Flash. And then from there, I worked so closely with developers, with the designers. It was really hands-on, required you to understand the logic and the abstract principles and how you built those things. And then I just took on more opportunities. So as things came up, I oversaw our SCORM tagging process. I worked in our American team. I managed a project to convert all those Flash activities into HTML5. And then when we launched our online system called Doddle, which is a system for 600,000 users across the UK, I was the product owner for that. So it was kind of a gradual build up to that. And by the time I left that organization, I'd worked with internal developers, external developers, brought in agile software development to both that organization and actually trained up an external organization we were working with on it, and was overseeing the whole development and editorial team by the time I left. I moved to AQA, quite a different role, much more focused, less of a generalist role. So working as a digital delivery manager, specifically on the public website. And I've been really lucky to work with Becky and Danielle on this recent Nexus project, as well as the work that we do on the website. Loads of learning, recently done my Prince2 qualification to understand other processes beyond Agile in our organization, and also focused on user experience quite a lot. We have quite a range of roles in our team. So really my focus now is finding the sweet spot between customer needs, business needs, and technical feasibility. And I love explaining the whys between both sides of those things. So that's a bit of background to where I got to where I am now.
Danielle, you're currently head of test. How did you get into that?
A bit of luck, I think, and also, as Catherine was saying, just taking opportunities as they came. So just saying yes to things. So I've been in tech now 20 years. I went straight from college to work, and I worked in a telecoms company doing order processing. And when they were bringing in a new system, they asked me to test it, and I fell into testing that way, and just really enjoyed it because I get to break things. And then my career, moving from a junior tester all the way up to head of test, has just been saying yes to opportunities, even when you don't feel necessarily ready for them as well. One of my career highlights was working in America for 18 months, and I was testing the software that put Wi-Fi on airplanes, which, you know, was very radical at the time. It was a brilliant opportunity, and again, it was quite scary, but just put myself forward for it. And I've been working at AQA as head of test for 3 years, and now responsible for all of the functional testing as well as non-functional testing, working with automation. And as Catherine said, we're trying to implement some agile processes in there as well. So it's very exciting.
Great. I was wondering, Becky, could you explain a bit more about, we've got a program called the Empowering Women Network at AQA. Could you explain a bit more for those who joined us today about that?
Yeah, so it was mentioned earlier on the call that, you know, within tech industry and within a lot of industry, there's improvements that can be made to look at gender inequality. So within AQA, we have a fantastic program. It's the Empowering Women program that started about 4 years ago. And we're looking at how we can explore the sort of research behind what are the differences, you know, that we're seeing between men and women in the workplace, how they're treated, how they feel, how we can manage, you know, our inner critic, that person within us that says you're not good enough, how we can ignore that and look at focusing on what we can achieve. We have the program itself runs over 6 months, and you create like a syndicate group of women that you work together, working through different problems, learning from external research and talking together. And then once you've gone through the program, we have an Empowering Women network that currently has about 200 women from across the organisation, and we look to put on events, discussion groups, articles, research, anything we can to really look at raising awareness of issues that we face, raising understanding, and creating safe spaces for discussions about this. So earlier in the year, I hosted a session about working through COVID, because a lot of the women that I was working with, me included, were trying to juggle childcare while working through COVID, and it was not easy at all. And there was a lot of research that shows that women were disproportionately affected by that. And then recently we've had a discussion on imposter syndrome and this concept that you are enough, you don't need external validation, you just need to have that self-belief that you are enough. And they're fairly well attended, and it's really great just to get women together and have a space to talk through issues. But actually we do welcome men into those discussions to raise their awareness of things that we're going through as well. So yeah, it's something that I'm quite proud of within AQA, is this Empowering Women network that has been created. Danielle, I wonder, just focusing really in on sort of women in tech, what are some of the challenges that you've faced personally and that we face within the industry you'd like to talk through?
Yeah, sure. I think there is definitely a gender imbalance in tech, you know, throughout the industry. And I think that gets even more pronounced the more senior you go. And, you know, I'm very conscious when I'm in meetings and I look around and I'm one of the only few women in that meeting. So it is, you know, something that we are trying to address at AQA, and obviously in the technology sector as a whole, and that's why, you know, we come to events like this, because we really want lots of women to join us. And I don't know if this rings true for you, Becky, but I think when I first started out in tech, I felt like I had to prove myself a lot more so than the men. So I had to be, you know, it wasn't just a given that I knew what I was talking about. You had to really prove yourself technically to be taken seriously. I do think that's improved. Also, I think because there were so few women at the time, and again, that's improved, it also felt a little bit competitive within the women that were there as well. But I think, again, that's moved on so much. You know, I think like what you were saying about the Empowering Women Network, I think, and it's great to be on here with you and Catherine, is, you know, women are now supporting women in tech a lot. And I think that's making all the difference, you know, because we just want so many women to be in this industry and making the difference. So as we said before about being diverse and making the changes that we need to change the world.
The phrase that keeps going through my head is that we walk so they can run. And we think about all the generations, you know, the women, the role models that we've had within tech, the people that were like the first women in that role, you know, and the real, you know, trailblazers. And then we're coming along this sort of next generation, and we want to bring the next generation up with us.
Definitely.
We want to make sure that they've got the opportunities that perhaps we didn't have, and that they've got a better environment to the ones that we started off in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the more technical, the better as well. So I have quite a lot of women in my team, because I recruit and make sure I'm getting that representation. But also, you know, and I'm trying to make sure that my male colleagues do the same. But yeah, I think especially in more heavy technical roles like developers, software engineers, and architects, you know, that's where a big problem is. And, you know, it'd be great to address that.
I think that's that thing of, with every problem there's an opportunity, and I think
at
the moment, you know, with equality, diversity and inclusion, you know, you can't have a predominantly male environment. It's just not acceptable. You know, people recognize that you need that absolute balance of opinions to create a successful team. I think, you know, in an industry that's screaming for women, there's some fantastic opportunities out there.
Definitely. And I think that should be what we next talk about. So Catherine, Becky leads me on quite nicely to ask about what opportunities do you think there is for women in tech?
Well, I can talk specifically to my own experience. So opportunities, I've already mentioned some of the opportunities that led me to the role I'm in now. But the kind of opportunities that you experience on a day-to-day basis, particularly at AQA, I'd put top of the list learning. Both learning from other colleagues. AQA has so much expertise, so I love learning on a daily basis from our developers, for example. It might not be directly relevant to my current role, but it's something that I can extend and move into. And also externally, there's a lot of opportunity for training courses. I mentioned the Prince2 qualification that I got recently. When I first joined, I took a product owner qualification, and I've recently got my UX certification from the Nielsen Norman Group, which has actually taken me 5 years with 30 hours of training and 5 exams, but has built my skill set to a point where I can apply that in my role on a day-to-day basis. And there's a brilliant community behind that as well. So it opens up opportunities for talking beyond your own organisation. There's also things like travel. That has obviously changed a bit post-COVID. We used to do a lot of travel between Guildford and Manchester, which doesn't happen in quite the same way anymore. But we're working really closely with an organisation in India. So there's been opportunities to go out there. I don't know, Danielle, if you wanted to say any more about that.
Yeah, I think both me and Becky have both been to India at separate occasions. Unfortunately, it's a shame we didn't get there at the same time, but it was really good to go and work with one of our partners over there. And funnily enough, they don't seem to have the same issues that we have with the gender split. That, you know, they seem to be 50-50. So I think there's a lot we can kind of learn from them, and how they recruit from universities and things like that to try and get that more 50-50 split at work.
Yeah, but Catherine, you were saying about AQA, you know, I've been at AQA 15 years, so a very long time. And I stay because it is a fantastic company. You know, we work in education and we want to do the best things for students, so that attracts great people with a great mindset. They're also really supportive of development. So at the moment I'm doing a master's, I'm doing an MBA. AQA are funding half of it, and the other half I applied for. There's some fantastic scholarships that you can get out there as well, and that's been that's part of the funding as well. So it's been a fantastically supportive organisation. It really has.
That's great.
Lovely. And we've had a question from, I'm really sorry if I say your name wrong, from Antra. She's asked around the kind of the gender pay gap. Are men paid better than women for working in the same role at AQA?
I'm happy to take this one. So we're actually, because we sort of have our roots with the sort of public sector with civil service, we've got a fantastic pay grade system that means that we have sort of banded pay. So it's not a case of negotiating wages. It's very much, this is the salary for the role. So we do find actually that you are paid, you know, you will be paid the same whether you're a male or female for the same role. So that gender balance when it comes to pay is great. That's not an issue. What Danielle alluded to earlier is, you know, it's making sure that the women are progressing up to those senior roles, and with that it's a case of volume. You know, it's making sure that there's enough women at the base to work up the way up to the top. Phil?
Yeah, I was going to say grassroots, if we can get people interested and inspired from the beginning and then taking those opportunities, that makes such a huge difference. And we were going to talk a bit about roles as well, so do ask questions in the chat if you think of anything as we're talking. That was a really great question. But just say, for example, the area that I work in, we look after the public website, and the kind of roles on my team are maybe less tech heavy than some of the ones that Danielle was leading to earlier. So we do have front-end developers, we do have an analyst, but we also have user experience designers, content designers and project managers. And that's actually meant we've probably got a kind of 50-50 split of male to female on our team because of the nature of the roles and the history going back to people getting into those roles to begin with. So content design, a lot of people will have done something like an English degree, but then it becomes a much more technical role as they progress in their role and learn to work closely with developers and, you know, user experience designers, for example. But just to flag that up in case those are roles that you're not aware of, haven't considered getting into, there's loads of brilliant opportunities there at the moment. And Becky, Danielle, did you want to say a bit about the roles in your areas, because you're both from quite different parts of the business to myself?
Yeah, I can go first. So within testing, we've got lots of different roles. We've got automation test specialists that I've currently been recruiting for, non-functional testing, so performance testers, operational acceptance testing. We do a lot of acceptance testing with business users, so working with people in the business. So maybe not quite as technical, but very good user skills as well as the basic software testing skills as well. How about you, Becky?
So I mostly recruit within the project management space. I've recruited business analysts before. I've recruited PMO, which is the admin and analytical support for projects. So really our role predominantly goes between the techies, I'm not sure if you could say it, but between the techies and the business. So it's translating the technical detail to the business in a way that they can understand it. So as I say, lots of project managers, business analysts, change managers, and admin and other analytical support for projects. So quite different roles.
Lovely, thanks guys. And it is worth mentioning as well that AQA are currently recruiting for 2 IT related apprenticeships. So there is one based in Milton Keynes, which is your IT support desk apprenticeship. There is also one that is available in either Guildford or Manchester, which is a cybersecurity apprenticeship. They are available on the Get My First Job website if it was something you were interested in. I just thought I'd throw it out there that there are some opportunities sort of apprenticeship level at the moment that, you know, are the kind of beginning to a lot of those paths really, aren't they? You know, once you're in AQA, it seems as though it's one of those companies where you can move sort of quite freely, and they're always very supportive, aren't they?
Yeah,
very much so. Yeah.
Lovely. And we've had a question from, we've got a couple of questions coming in now. So we've got a question from Irina. Would AQA consider a person looking for a career change as an applicant, meaning older, maybe not straight from uni, but with maths and an education background?
Absolutely.
Quick answer.
yeah.
Perfect. And there was one, whether the cybersecurity apprenticeship is based in London. Unfortunately, at the moment, it is not, but potentially in the future, we'll obviously kind of see how everything goes.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say though, AQA has offices in Guildford, Manchester and London, and at the moment with COVID, obviously everyone's working patterns have changed, so we have moved to a hybrid model. So we have 2 days on average, 2 days a week in the office, with the rest working from home, as you can see, which is fantastic. So and there is always a bit of, you know, there is always flexibility with the role.
Yeah, I was going to say apply and ask, because a lot of our roles we're looking between the 3 different offices there.
Yeah, we quite often, you know, travel between the 3 offices, as well as Milton Keynes and Harrogate, where we also have roles.
There was a question earlier as well, just saying what are the apprenticeship opportunities, and obviously Danielle, you answered that before, but do you get a chance to experience different roles? And I think we would like to evolve the apprenticeship program so people do come into AQA and get a taste for the different departments in tech or wider, so they get some experience in software testing. You know, I'd love to have you for a short while and then move on, so you do get a good taste of what AQA does as a business, and it helps you then you know, figure out what, you know, where your interest lies and things like that. So I think hopefully we will develop that in the future.
Amazing. And just one from me really, because, you know, it's obviously quite a big one. And Becky, you have just kind of touched on it. Obviously with the pandemic, and you've now changed to the hybrid pattern, like how has that affected you guys in terms of like your day-to-day work and sort of trying to keep on top of everything, I suppose?
I think it's funny because actually over the last couple of years, you know, we've had massive adjustments. Catherine, Danielle and I are all parents. We've all had to do that, juggling children while chairing meetings and what have you. And now we're reverting back to working from the office, and also people have started working more flexibly. So this sort of 9 to 5 culture has gone a little bit, and people will have more freedom to, you know, make sure that they meet their sort of commitments of meetings during the day, but if they need to finish a little bit earlier and then catch up in the evenings, we're seeing that. So I think it has brought definitely some greater flexibility in the working as well.
Yeah, I'd agree. I was working a day a week from home before the pandemic and before I had my child. So it's only really been a bit of a shift for me to go to more working at home and in the office. But yeah, AQA has been bringing in policies for us to learn how that works for everyone together when we're in and when we're out.
And do you guys have any tips? I know, Letitia, you've asked a question around kind of starting a career in quite a specific field, but I suppose we should probably open that up. You know, is there any kind of hints and tips that you guys have got working in sort of the tech field as to, you know, how to sort of stand out as a candidate, if there's anything that, you know, you would recommend people doing?
So for me, I've just been recruiting and shortlisting this week for a PMO role, and I had 25 applicants and there's one job. And so as a recruiter, I'm looking through 25 applicants and I'm trying to differentiate between them. And what to me really stands out is someone that states really obviously, this is the job that I want to do. I am perfect for this role because, and these are the steps that I have taken to get into this position. And if you can show that you have taken steps towards this job as your end goal, you stand out from the rest of the applicants.
Yeah, I was going to say volunteering. I mean, I volunteered for organisations as a webmaster. That term's probably incredibly outdated now. And even things like online free courses. There's things like Data Camp, Coursera, Code Academy. Check out those first. It shows that you're really genuinely interested in an area, and it's something you can point to really strongly.
Yeah, I'd agree all that. I didn't answer the specific question in the chat about QA, and just saying that there is courses like the ISTQB foundation course, but also like look for online for forums and free courses. Yeah.
Catherine, you're the queen of that, aren't you, on LinkedIn, the free course?
Love a free course. And also we mentioned communities earlier, but there's for different areas. I mean, it might be something that helps you understand what area of tech you want to work in as well. So I used to work in Oxford, and I'm still involved with the UX Oxford group, because there's a lot of virtual events that you can still attend on that. So it's worth looking around and seeing kind of what meetups there are, and if that helps you understand what area you'd like to work in, or even just to make contacts.
So I know we've only got a few minutes left, but before we finish, Danielle, this for me is, because I'm quite sad and I like exams and I like tech. For me, it's quite an exciting time because there's lots of change happening within the industry over the coming years. Are you able to talk through some of the changes that you're aware of?
I can do, and I think you're right, it is so exciting. I think it's probably an industry that's been very similar. It's happened.
Paper-based exams for
a long time, and not a lot has changed in that area. Obviously, we've just gone through a huge transformation program. We've changed our technologies, and we can really leverage that now and build for the future. The pandemic, as horrible as it was, it did force us to change in a way. So we had to rapidly change our systems. For those of you who've done GCSEs and A-levels recently, the teacher assessed grades, we had to do that very, very quickly. And I think there will be a knock-on effect of that, and it will drive radical change. I think EdTech is kind of screaming out for it's the next sector that's going to be really changed. And we are looking at things like on-screen testing, so getting away from the paper-based exams. We're looking how we can exploit AI and machine learning to help with some of the marking and things like that. So it is such an exciting time to be in this industry. And I think, like I said before, that we really need a diverse teams to work on that and to make sure that it is going in the right direction.
I'm aware we've only got like a minute, so I'm just going to quickly say, great reasons to work at AQA. I mean, there's an amazing focus on well-being, sustainability, massive focus on development, which you expect from an educational organisation, expert guidance. There's so many brilliant people that work here, and as was mentioned, we have 2 apprenticeships being advertised at the moment. And that's part of our initial rollout of that, and we're planning to advertise more. So have a look at the AQA website, find out a bit more about us and what we do, and keep your eye out for our 2022 vacancies as well.
Amazing,
thanks guys.